Picture Tamriel's underbelly, where torchlight barely reaches and trust is a currency rarer than gold. In the ash-choked alleys of Morrowind, the bustling markets of Cyrodiil, and the shadowed ruins of forgotten eras, I made my name, or rather, ensured it was never spoken. I am Varyn Telvanni, a Dunmer thief whose hands have pilfered treasures from nobles, temples, and even Daedric shrines. No hero, no champion, just a shadow who took what others guarded. My life is a tapestry of botched jobs, desperate escapes, and heists that bards would sing of if they knew my name. From the slums of Vivec to the Imperial City's vaults, I've danced with danger and slipped through fate's grasp. Will you follow me through the tales of my misdeeds, where every coin stolen came with a cost? This is my confession, etched in shadow. I was born in 3E410, under Morrowind's ashen skies, in a shack on the outskirts of Sadrith Mora. House Telvanni's towers loomed, their wizards indifferent to the likes of me, a street urchin with no magic, only quick fingers. My mother, a failed alchemist, taught me to read and to steal before she vanished into the Telvanni's experiments. By 12, I was picking pockets in the foreign quarter of Vivec, dodging ordinators in their golden masks. My first theft was a silver ring from a Hlalu merchant. I sold it for a loaf of bread and a dream of something bigger. That dream led me to the Thieves' Guild, a ragtag crew operating out of Balmora's South Wall Corner Club. They saw my knack for slipping through locked doors and taught me the art of the shadow mark, the lockpick, and the lie. My first real job at 16 was a disaster. The guild sent me to rob a Hlalu manor in Balmora, targeting a chest of ebony ore. I slipped past the guards, my heart pounding like a war drum, and cracked the lock with a bent pick. But the chest was trapped, a fire glyph singed my hands, and the guards were on me before I could blink. I fled through a window, tumbling into the Odai River, my cloak snagged on thorns. I swam to the Silt Strider port, half drowned, and hid in a caravan's cargo until the heat died down. The guild laughed it off, but I learned, always check for traps. That lesson saved me more times than I can count. By 20, I was bolder, taking jobs across Vardenfell. One night, I targeted a Redoran counselor's manor in Aldrune. The prize was a Dwemer puzzle box, rumored to unlock a hidden vault. I scaled the manor's shell-like walls, avoiding skeevers and guards, and found the box in a locked study. But the counselor, a grizzled warrior, woke early. His greatsword swung inches from my head as I dove through a trapdoor, landing in a dusty cellar. I escaped with the box, but the vault's location eluded me. Redoran had moved it. I sold the box to a Telvanni mage for a sack of drakes, but the failure stung. I swore I'd never be caught off guard again. My first true success came in 3E430, when I joined a heist on the great house vaults in Vivec's Hlalu Canton. The guild had a tip, house. Hlalu was hoarding moon sugar, smuggled from elsewhere. My role was to infiltrate the vault while 2 others distracted the guards. I navigated the canton's underworks, a maze of sewers and smugglers' tunnels, my boots slick with filth. The vault's lock was a masterpiece, Dwemer gears and Ayleid enchantments. But I'd studied locks under a guild master. It clicked open, revealing crates of moon sugar and a sapphire amulet pulsing with magicka. I took the amulet, a bonus for my trouble, and we hauled the sugar out through a hidden canal. The guild's cut made me rich, and the amulet. I kept it, a secret I never shared. That amulet led to my first brush with the Daedra. I was in Suren, fencing stolen goods, when a Dunmer woman approached me, her eyes gleaming like rubies. She called herself a priestess of Mafala, the web spinner, and claimed the amulet was hers, stolen from a shrine. I lied, said I'd sold it, but she saw through me. That night, shadows moved in my room, whispering my name. I fled Suran, the amulet burning in my pocket, and hid in a smuggler's cave near Seda Neen. The whispers followed, but I buried the amulet under a silt strider's husk and never returned. Mephalah's gaze lingered, a warning I'd crossed a line. In 3E432, I left Morrowind for Cyrodiil, chasing rumors of richer marks. The Imperial City was a thief's paradise, nobles with fat purses, vaults brimming with septims. I joined the Thieves' Guild in the waterfront, under the Grey Fox's shadow. My first job was a bust. I tried to rob a merchant's manor in the Elven Gardens, targeting a Dwemer coin collection. The merchant, paranoid, had hired a battle mage. His fireballs lit the night as I sprinted across rooftops, arrows whistling past. I dove into the sewers, losing my loot, but keeping my skin. The guild docked my share, but I earned their respect for surviving. My greatest heist came in 3E433, during the chaos of the Oblivion Crisis. With Mehrunes Dagon's gates opening, Cyrodiil's nobles were distracted, their guards stretched thin. I targeted the Arcane University, aiming for a rumored alien artifact, a well-kind stone said to hold a star's light. I posed as a mage's apprentice, my Dunmer accent hidden behind a practiced Cyrodiilic drawl. The university's wards were fierce, but I'd learned illusion magic from a guild contact. I slipped past mages, my invisibility spell flickering, and found the stone in a warded vault. It glowed like a captured dawn, warm in my hands. I escaped through a drainage grate, the stone hidden in my cloak. The guild sold it to a Breton collector for a fortune, and I bought a safe house in Breville with my cut. But not every job was a triumph. In Cheydinhall, I botched a theft at the Chapel of Archay, aiming for a reliquary of saints' bones. The priest, an Imperial with a zealot's fire, caught me mid-act. His mace grazed my shoulder as I leapt from a stained glass window, landing in a thorn bush. I limped to the Thieves' Guild hideout, bleeding and empty-handed. The guildmaster, a Khajiit named Sakriva, mocked my clumsiness but gave me another chance. That failure taught me patience, a thief's truest ally. My narrowest escape was in Anvil, targeting a noble's manor rumored to hold a Daedric artifact, a dagger blessed by Nocturnal. I infiltrated during a masquerade, disguised as a servant. The dagger was in a locked display, its blade black as void. I picked the lock, but the noble, a paranoid Altmer, had enchanted the case. An alarm spell shrieked, and guards swarmed. I ran, dagger in hand, through Anvil's streets, dogs barking, torches flaring. I hid in a ship's hold at the docks, the dagger's whispers urging me to keep it. I sold it to a fence in Bruma, fearing Nocturnal's wrath, and never looked back. In 3E435, I took a job that nearly ended me. A client, a shadowy Dunmer claiming Morag Tong ties, hired me to steal a Telvanni grimoire from a mage's tower in Skingrad. The tower was a fortress, wards, traps, and a summoned scamp that nearly clawed my eyes out. I reached the grimoire, its pages crackling with magicka, but the mage returned early. His lightning bolt scorched my arm as I leapt from a balcony, landing in a vineyard. I ran through the night, the grimoire heavy in my pack, and delivered it to the client in coral. He paid in ebony ingots, but his smile hinted at betrayal. I vanished into the great forest, avoiding the Tong's assassins for weeks. My final tale is of a treasure I never meant to find. In 3E440, I explored an Ayleid ruin near Bruma, Vatesen, chasing rumors of a lost crown. The ruin's traps, spiked floors, fire jets, tested every skill I had. Deep inside, I found not a crown, but a shard of the Amulet of Kings, pulsing red. Its power hummed, whispering of Akatosh and Mephalah. I'd heard of the Oblivion Crisis, though I'd been in Morrowind then, dodging it. This shard was trouble tied to gods in Daedra. I hid it in a cave, fearing its pull, and told no one, not even the guild. Some treasures are too heavy to carry. My life as a thief ended in 3E441 when I retired to a shack in Skyrim's wilds. My name, Varyn Telvanni, is no legend, but my marks are etched across Tamriel, a missing ring in Vivek, a stolen stone in Cyrodiil, a dagger lost to nocturnal shadows. I've outrun guards, Daedra, and fate itself. If you walk Tamriel's roads, check your pockets. The shadows still carry my touch, and somewhere, a thief like me is writing their own tale. I was barely 17 when I stumbled into my first real fight, a brutal awakening that still haunts my dreams. The Thieves' Guild had sent me to raid a smuggler's camp nestled in the desolate ashlands, near the towering rune-etched stones of the Ghost Fence. The job seemed simple: lift a crate of moon sugar stashed in a tattered tent, and slip back to Balmora before dawn. I crept through the ashen dunes, my boots crunching on volcanic glass, the air thick with the scent of sulfur and sweat. The camp was a chaotic sprawl of lean-tos and flickering campfires, guarded by rough-looking men with scarred faces and steel blades at their hips. I thought I could outmaneuver them, sliding past a snoring lookout to pry open the crate with my lockpick. But the creak of the lid woke a burly Nord, his mace swinging before I could react. I ducked, the weapon grazing my shoulder, and drew my dagger, a flimsy thing I'd stolen from a drunkard. The fight was a blur. My blade nicked his arm, drawing blood, but another smuggler tackled me into the ash, his weight pinning me as I gasped for air. I writhed free, rolling down a jagged ravine, my cloak tearing on thorns, the moon sugar lost to the dust. The guild scolded me when I returned, empty-handed and bruised, but that skirmish taught me to fight dirty, to use the terrain as my ally. Little did I know those smugglers were Morag Tong scouts, their interest in me a shadow that would linger, waiting to strike again. Those scouts didn't forget me, and weeks later their vengeance came calling. I was haggling over saltries in Balmora's market, the clamor of merchants and the clink of coins filling the air, when I felt eyes on me. A Morag Tong assassin, cloaked in black with an ebony blade glinting at his side, moved through the crowd like a wraith. His intent was clear, my head as a trophy. Panic surged, and I bolted, weaving through stalls of kwama eggs and silk, my heart hammering against my ribs. He pursued, silent but relentless, his footsteps a whisper on the cobblestones. I lured him into a silt strider stable, the massive beast snorting above us, and threw a stolen paralysis potion from my pouch. The vial shattered, and he froze mid-strike, his blade inches from my chest. I bound him with rope from a nearby crate, leaving him for the guards, and fled into the night, my breath ragged. I thought I'd outsmarted them, but the Tong's silence afterward was a chilling promise. They'd be back, and I'd need sharper wits and darker tricks to survive. Determined to prove myself after that scare, I devised a heist on a Hlalu vault in Caldera, a plan born from weeks of sleepless nights. I studied the guard rotations from a rooftop perch, bribing a nervous servant with a pouch of drakes for a wax mold of the key. I crafted a false identity as a traveling trader, complete with forged papers and a weathered cloak, and waited for the festival of the twin moons to strike. The plan was meticulous. Enter the manor under the guise of a guest, disable the wards with a stolen scroll I'd bartered from a mage in Pelagiad, and escape with a chest of ebony ingots. The night was alive with music and laughter as I slipped inside, my hands steady as I traced the scroll's runes over the ward, feeling the magic dissipate. The vault door clicked open, revealing the chest's gleam, and I hoisted it onto my shoulder. But the scroll's magic faltered mid-cast, a spark alerting the guards, their shouts echoing through the halls. I grabbed the chest and ran, the plan half successful, the chase that followed a test of my resolve I'd have to face head-on. That chase took me across Caldera's rooftops, a desperate sprint under a sky streaked with stars. The chest banged against my side, its weight slowing me as guards loosed arrows from below, one grazing my calf with a sharp sting. I leapt from tile to tile, using chimneys and gables for cover, my breath clouding in the cool air. A fireball erupted from a mage's staff, singeing the edge of my cloak, the heat forcing me to drop into a narrow alley. I landed hard, rolling into a beggar's cart piled with rags, my body trembling as the guards' torches passed by. I kept the ebony, clutching it tight, but the wound throbbed, and whispers of a bounty on my head began to spread through the taverns, trouble I'd need to evade with every step. The bounty drew a Nord hunter to Seda Neen, a towering figure with an axe that gleamed like death itself. I was fencing a stolen ring near the docks, the salty breeze mixing with the scent of fish, when he cornered me against a crate stack. His first swing came fast, the axe whistling past my ear, and I dodged, drawing my dagger with a shaky hand. We clashed, his brute force against my agility, steel ringing as I parried, my blade scraping his armor. I feinted left, tripping him into the shallow water, his curses bubbling as I leapt into a rowboat. I rowed hard, the hunter's roar echoing across the bay. I knew he'd track me again. The sea air carried my relief, but also the bitter taste of a foe who wouldn't rest. That near miss pushed me to flee Morrowind, a decision born of fear and necessity. I stowed away on a creaking ship bound for Cyrodiil, hiding among crates of salt rice and moon sugar as Morag Tong agents searched the Seda Neen docks, their black cloaks blending with the night. The journey was a torment. Every creak of the hull, every shout from the deck, set my nerves ablaze. I huddled in the dark, my breath shallow, until we landed in Anvil's harbor. I slipped ashore, penniless but free, the cobblestones cold under my feet. The Thieves' Guild in the waterfront soon found me, their shadowed eyes offering a welcome that came with a test I couldn't refuse, pulling me back into the life I'd tried to escape. The Waterfront Guild tasked me with stealing a noble's signet ring from a manor in Anvil, an initiation trial to prove my worth. I planned it with care, entering through a servant's window at midnight, avoiding the mage ward with a dampened cloth to muffle my steps. The room was plush, velvet curtains framing a bed where the noble slept, his snores a steady rhythm. I found the ring on a bedside table, its gold glinting, but as I lifted it, a hound leapt from the shadows, its growl a thunderclap. I slashed its leash with my dagger, sprinting out, the ring clutched in my fist. I passed the trial, earning my shadow mark, but the hound's bark had alerted the city. I'd need to lay low, the triumph tainted by the risk that followed. Lying low led me to a Bravil hideout, a damp cellar where low-life thieves shared tales over mugs of Flynn. I joined a plan to rob a caravan on the Green Road, using a decoy, a drunkard we paid, to draw the guards away. The night was foggy, the caravan's lanterns bobbing like will-o-wisps, and we struck with precision, taking gold and spices from unguarded chests. But a guard recognized me from Anvil, his shout cutting through the mist. I fled through the marshes, mud sucking at my boots, reeds slashing my legs as their calls faded. The gold was mine, a hard-won prize, but the recognition meant my past was catching up, a shadow I couldn't outrun forever. Greed drove me to target a chapel in Skingrad, aiming for a relic, a silver chalice said to hold a saint's blessing. I slipped in at night, the stained glass casting colored shadows, my lockpick trembling as I worked the sacristy door. But a priest woke, his mace swinging with a zealot's fury, the air whooshing past my ear. I parried with my dagger, knocking over a candelabra, and the chapel caught fire, flames licking the pews. I escaped through a shattered window, glass cutting my palms, empty-handed as the blaze roared behind. The failure stung, the priest's curses following me into the night, Retribution was brewing, a debt I'd have to settle. Those priests hired a mage to hunt me, a vengeful figure with a staff crackling with lightning. In Coral, he ambushed me near the oak and crozier, his bolt scorching my arm with a searing pain. I rolled into an alley, the cobblestones slick with rain, and threw a smoke bomb from my pouch, the gray cloud blinding him. I climbed a wall, my burned arms screaming, and hid on a rooftop, breath ragged. I lived, barely, but the mage's pursuit didn't end there. His magic a specter I'd face again, a challenge I couldn't ignore. To counter the mage, I allied with smugglers in the Imperial City's sewers, a dank network of tunnels reeking of mold. We planned to ambush him, using traps I'd learned from my guild days, spiked pits and tripwires. The plan unfolded in the dark, his footsteps echoing as he fell into our snare, his cry cut short. But his final spell cracked the sewer wall, water rushing in, cold and relentless. I swam out, soaked and shaken, the alliance strained but holding. More schemes were on the horizon, a partnership I'd need to navigate carefully. The smugglers proposed hitting a gold road caravan for Dunmer artifacts, a prize worth the risk. I scouted the route, setting a trap with spiked logs hidden in the brush, my hands steady as I rigged the mechanism. The ambush worked. We took a gearwork relic, its brass gears clicking faintly. But a guard's horn summoned reinforcements, their shouts piercing the dawn. I fled into the Colovian highlands, relic in tow, the sound of pursuit, a constant threat. A chase I'd have to outlast with every ounce of strength. Hiding in the highlands, I stashed the relic in a cave, planning to sell it later under cover of night. But a bandit gang found me, their leader a scarred orc demanding a cut, his axe raised. I fought, my dagger flashing in the dim light, parrying blows as blood stained the cave floor. I escaped with a wound across my ribs, the relic safe. But the bandit's grudge lingered, trouble I'd face again, a vendetta brewing in the shadows. I took the relic to a fence in Bruma, a shady Argonian with a greedy glint in his yellow eyes. The deal was set in a cramped tent, the air thick with incense. But he betrayed me, signaling city guards with a hidden whistle. I slashed the tent's fabric, grabbing the relic, and fled through a blizzard, snow blinding me, the guards' shouts muffled by the wind. They lost me, but the fence's treachery left a sour taste. Revenge might be next, a score I'd settle in time. That blizzard nearly killed me, the cold seeping into my bones as I stumbled through the whiteout. I found a hunter's cabin, its wooden walls weathered, and collapsed as snow buried my tracks. The hunter, a kind Nord with a grizzled beard, patched me up with rough hands, unaware of the relic hidden in my cloak. I left at dawn, the relic secure, grateful but wary. Kindness in Tamriel often came with a price, a debt I might yet repay. The Nord later sought me out in Falkreath, his voice gruff as he claimed a debt for saving me. He wanted a heist on a Jarl's vault, a bold move I couldn't resist. I planned it, disguising as a servant, cracking the lock with a pick I'd honed for years. But the vault was empty, a trap baited with silence. We escaped as alarms rang, the Jarl's guards flooding the hall, my trust in the Nord shaken, more plans needing revision, a partnership on the brink. The trap led to a chase through Falkreath's woods, the air thick with pine and panic. Guards and hounds were on our heels, their barks a relentless chorus, and I used a potion to blur my trail, the liquid stinging my throat. I lost them in the undergrowth, but the Nord vanished, betrayed or lost I couldn't tell. I was alone again, the sting of failure driving me to prove myself, a quest for redemption still ahead. Seeking redemption, I raided an Aeliad ruin near Kvatch, targeting a well-kinned stone said to hold a star's light. I navigated traps, spiked floors, and fire jets with my lock-picking skills honed to perfection, the stone's glow guiding me through the dark. I emerged with it in hand, its warmth a triumph. But the ruin's echoes hinted at deeper secrets, mysteries I'd explore later, a path yet untraveled. That Welkin stone brought trouble, its glow attracting a Daedric cult, clad in crimson robes. They ambushed me in the wilderness, their blades clashing with mine in a flurry of steel and shadow. I fought, my dagger slicing through their ranks, blood staining the grass, and escaped into a cave, the stone pulsing in my grip. Its power lingered, a curse I'd need to unravel, its pull growing stronger, a threat I'd confront soon. In that cave I felt eyes, perhaps Mephalah's, perhaps something new, watching from the dark. The stone pulsed, and whispers filled the silence, voices I couldn't place. I hid it behind a rock, planning my next move, but the threat loomed large. My tale isn't done, more shadows wait, and I'll face them with blade and wit, or fall trying the next chapter yet to unfold. The cave's damp chill clung to me as I clutched the well-kind stone, its whispers a constant hum in my ears. I knew I couldn't stay. Whatever watched from the shadows would find me soon. My journey as Varyn Telvanni, Dunmer thief, was far from over, and the next tales would test every skill I'd honed. I emerged from the cave into a storm-lashed night, the rain mixing with ash as I trekked toward Cheydinhal. A band of marauders ambushed me on the road, their rusty swords glinting under lightning flashes. I dodged a wild swing, my dagger finding a gap in one's armor, but a second struck my side, the pain sharp and hot. I threw a smoke pellet, vanishing into the trees, blood seeping through my cloak. I patched the wound with a rag, cursing my luck. The marauders' laughter faded, but their trail led somewhere, a threat I'd track down later. Tracking them led me to a ruined fort, its stones overgrown with vines. I planned to steal their loot, a chest rumored to hold gold and a Daedric artifact. I scaled the wall at dusk, avoiding sentries, and picked the chest's lock with trembling hands. Success was mine, gold coins and a black dagger, but a trap sprang, dropping spikes that grazed my leg. I limped away, treasure in tow, the artifact's whispers hinting at a power I'd need to understand, a mystery yet to unravel. The dagger's power drew a Daedric cultist to a Bruma inn where I fenced the gold. He cornered me in the stables, his eyes glowing with Sanguine's influence. I fought, my blade clashing with his, but his wine-fueled strength overwhelmed me. I escaped by cutting the reins of a horse, riding bareback into the snow, the cultist's curses echoing. The dagger stayed with me, its curse a burden I'd have to bear, a foe I'd face again. To sell the dagger, I sought a fence in Leowin, a sly Khajiit with a hidden lair. I planned the meet with caution, using a decoy to draw guards away, but the Khajiit double-crossed me, pocketing the gold and alerting his thugs. I slashed through a tent flap, dodging a mace, and fled into the swamp, mud sucking at my boots. The betrayal stung, but the dagger's value kept me going, a score I'd settle in time. The swamp slowed me, and a band of bandits caught my scent. I battled them near a ruined shrine, my dagger flashing as I parried a sword thrust, blood staining the moss. I tripped one into the mire, escaping with a gash on my arm, but their leader vowed revenge. Trouble I'd encounter again, a vendetta brewing in the muck. Seeking refuge, I hid in a fisherman's hut on the Niben Bay, planning to lie low. But the fisherman's son, a curious lad, found my dagger and ran off, alerting his father. I chased him through the reeds, tackling him to retrieve it, and fled as the father shouted. The close call left me wary, the boy's innocence a reminder of the lives I'd touched, a guilt I'd carry forward. Guilt drove me to a heist in Kvatch, targeting a merchant's warehouse to fund a quiet life. I planned it, entering via the roof, disabling alarms with a stolen charm. The hall was rich, silks and gems, but a guard's patrol turned, his spear grazing my back. I leapt to the street, goods clutched tight, the escape a triumph marred by the wound, a chase I'd need to outrun. The chase led me to a bandit camp in the West Weald, where I hid the gems in a hollow log. The bandits found me, their leader a hulking orc demanding tribute. I fought, my dagger slicing his thigh, but they outnumbered me. I fled into a ravine, gems lost, the orc's roar a promise of future conflict, a battle yet to come. To reclaim the gems, I allied with a rogue mage in Skingrad, planning a nighttime raid. We set traps, poison darts and snares, but the mage betrayed me, triggering the alarms. I cut through a tent, dodging darts, and escaped with a minor cut, the mage's laughter fading. The gems were gone, but the treachery fueled my resolve, a lesson I'd apply next. Resolve led me to a Daedric ruin near Coral, seeking a soul gem to trade. I navigated traps, flame jets, and pressure plates with skill, the gem's purple glow my reward. But a cultist guard awoke, his mace swinging, and I fled, gem in hand, his pursuit a shadow I'd evade later, a prize worth the risk. The pursuit took me to a cliff edge, where I slipped, hanging by my fingers as the cultist closed in. I kicked his knee, sending him tumbling, and climbed to safety, gems secure. The fall left me shaken, but the gem's power hinted at more dangers, a path I'd tread cautiously. Caution guided me to a Thieves' Guild safe house in Breville, where I planned to fence the gem. But a rival thief stole it during a brawl, his knife nicking my cheek. I chased him through the docks, tackling him into the water, but he escaped with the gem. Rivalry I'd settle, a loss driving me onward. The loss pushed me to a heist in the Imperial City, targeting a noble's vault for revenge. I planned it, using a servant's uniform, cracking the lock, but the vault held a trap, a gas cloud choking me. I stumbled out, empty-handed, the gas burning my lungs, a failure I'd overcome with better preparation. Better preparation led me to a smuggler's cove near Anvil, planning to steal a shipment of ebony. I set a diversion, lighting a decoy fire, and took the ebony, but a smuggler's arrow pierced my shoulder. I swam to shore, loot in hand, the pain a badge of triumph, a wound I'd heal from. Healing took me to a healer's hut in Wayrest, where I planned to rest. But the healer recognized my dagger, alerting guards. I fought, my blade clashing with theirs, and escaped through a window, the healer's betrayal a sting I'd address, a chase still echoing. The chase led me to a forest cave where I hid the ebony, planning my next move. But a bear charged, its roar shaking the walls. I slashed its paw, fleeing as it roared, the ebony safe, but the cave unsafe. A danger I'd return to, a story yet to end. The cave's echo faded as I clutched the ebony, the bear's roars still ringing in my ears. I couldn't linger. Tamriel's dangers were relentless, and my life as Varyn Telvanni demanded I keep moving. More tales awaited, each a thread in the tapestry of my shadowed existence. I stumbled from the cave into a moonless night, the forest thick with pine and peril, when a pack of wolves caught my scent. Their growls cut through the silence, yellow eyes glinting as they circled. I drew my dagger, its blade catching the faint starlight, and slashed at the lead wolf, its blood staining my hand. The pack lunged, claws raking my thigh, but I climbed a tree, branches snapping under my weight. I waited, heart pounding until they dispersed, leaving me bruised but alive. The wound throbbed, a reminder of nature's wrath, and I knew the forest held more threats I'd face soon. That wound forced me to seek a healer in a remote hamlet near the Gerald Mountains. I planned to barter the ebony for aid, slipping into the village under a borrowed cloak. The healer, an old Breton with trembling hands, tended my leg, but his apprentice recognized the dagger's Daedric make. Alarms rang, and I fled, dodging pitchforks and a clumsy fireball that singed my hair. I escaped into the snow, ebony intact, the healer's betrayal a bitter pill. Trust was a luxury I'd lost, and vengeance might call me back. Vengeance led me to plan a raid on the hamlet's storehouse, a petty revenge to reclaim my pride. I scouted at dusk, noting a weak window and a single guard. I slipped inside, my lockpick clicking softly, and took sacks of grain and a silver candlestick. But the guard awoke, his shout drawing others, and I ran, tripping over a root, the loot scattering. I kept the candlestick, a small triumph, but the hamlet's anger would linger, a feud I'd need to navigate. The feud escalated when a bounty hunter tracked me to a crossroads inn. He was a wiry imperial, his crossbow loaded as he cornered me by the hearth. I ducked a bolt, smashing a chair to distract him, and stabbed his arm, blood pooling on the floor. I fled into the night, the hunter's curses fading, but his determination hinted at a rematch, a shadow I couldn't shake. To shake him, I joined a band of outlaws camping in the Colovian highlands, planning a joint heist on a merchant caravan. We set an ambush with spiked pits, my hands steady as I laid the traps. The raid succeeded. We took silks and gold, but a merchant's guard fought back, his sword nicking my cheek. I led the retreat, loot in hand, the guard's resilience suggesting he'd hunt us, a challenge yet to come. The challenge grew when the guard hired mercenaries to track us. I battled them in a ravine, my dagger clashing with steel, parrying a mace that bruised my ribs. I threw a smoke bomb, escaping into a crevice, but the mercenaries' shouts echoed. Revenge was brewing, a fight I'd face again. To plan my next move, I hid in an abandoned watchtower, sketching maps by candlelight. But a storm flooded the lower levels, water rising as I scrambled to the roof. I leapt to a tree, soaked and shivering, my maps ruined, the tower's collapse a lesson in nature's fury, a setback I'd overcome. Overcoming it, I targeted a noble's estate in Skingrad, planning to steal a jeweled coronet. I entered via a trellis, disabling a ward with a stolen amulet, and found the coronet in a glass case. Success was mine, but a servant's cry alerted guards, and I fled, coronet in hand, their pursuit a chase I'd need to outrun. The chase took me through Skingrad's vineyards, guards' torches bobbing as I leapt over rows. An arrow whizzed past, embedding in a vine, and I dove into a cellar, hiding among barrels. I kept the coronet, but the guards' persistence promised more encounters, a danger lingering ahead. Lingering danger drove me to a Thieves' Guild safe house in the Imperial City, where I planned to fence the coronet. But a rival stole it during a card game, his knife slashing my palm. I chased him through the waterfront, tackling him into the muck, but he slipped away with the prize. Rivalry I'd settle, a loss fueling my next move. The next move was a heist on a mage's tower in Bruma, targeting a spellbook for leverage. I planned it, using a rope to scale the wall, cracking the window lock. I took the book, its pages crackling, but a ward triggered, fire blasting my arm. I escaped, book in hand. The burn a cost of triumph, a power I'd wield soon. Wielding it, I faced a Daedric summoner who sought the book. He attacked in a forest glade, his conjured clan fear charging. I slashed its hide, dodging its claws, and fled as it dissipated, the summoner's laughter haunting me. The book was safe, but his pursuit loomed, a battle yet to finish. The pursuit led me to a riverbank, where I planned to cross and lose him. But the current swept me under, my pack dragging me down. I cut it free, swimming to shore, book still gripped, the river's rage a test I'd survived, a journey. The bandit lord's roar faded into the night as I clutched the gold chest, my legs burning from the escape. The chase wasn't over, but my life as Varyn Telvanni, Dunmer thief, demanded I press on. More shadows awaited, each tale a step deeper into the abyss I'd carved for myself. I staggered into a dense thicket, the gold chest heavy as I sought refuge, when a pack of cliff racers swooped down, their screeches piercing the silence. I ducked, the chest clattering against a rock, and swung my dagger, slicing one's wing, its blood splattering my face. The others dive-bombed, talons raking my shoulder, but I rolled into a hollow log, the wood splintering under their assaults. I waited, breath held, until they flew off, leaving me battered but with the gold. The wounds ached, a reminder of Morrowind's wild fury, and I knew their kin might return, a danger lurking in the skies. That danger drove me to a remote hunter's lodge in the Vallis Mountains, planning to trade the gold for supplies. I approached under a gray dawn, the lodge's smoke curling into the sky, and bartered with the grizzled Nord who eyed my dagger suspiciously. The deal was struck, food and a cloak for half the gold. But as I turned, his son drew a bow, demanding the rest. I dodged an arrow, slashing the bowstring, and fled into the mist, the gold halved but my life intact. The Nord's grudge simmered, a vendetta I'd cross paths with again. The vendetta pushed me to plan a heist on a Hlalu caravan near Kraganmore, a chance to replenish my losses. I scouted for days, mapping their route through ash wastes, and devised a trap, collapsing a bridge with a stolen explosive. The plan worked. The caravan halted, and I looted silks and ebony, my hands swift despite the cold. But a surviving guard rallied others, their shouts echoing as I ran, the loot secure. The pursuit hinted at retribution, a chase I'd need to outmaneuver with cunning. Cunning led me to a smuggler's hideout in the Bitter Coast, where I planned to fence the silks. The lair was a cavern of damp stone, lit by glowing mushrooms, and I met a sly Argonian fence. The trade was smooth, Drake's for the goods, but as I left, his henchmen ambushed me, knives flashing. I parried with my dagger, blood staining the moss, and escaped through a water channel, the Drake's soaked but mine. The Argonians' treachery lingered, a score I'd settle when the time was right. The time came when I returned to the hideout, planning to steal back my losses. I entered at midnight, disabling a ward with a pilfered charm, and took a chest of moon sugar. But the Argonian awoke, his spell blasting a fireball that scorched my leg. I limped out, sugar in hand, his laughter a taunt. I'd won, but the burn was a price, a conflict unresolved. Unresolved conflict drove me to a Daedric shrine in the West Weald, targeting a ritual dagger for its value. I planned it, using shadows to avoid cultists, picking the altar lock. I seized the dagger, its black blade humming, but a priestess summoned a scamp, its claws slashing my arm. I fought, stabbing its throat, and fled as the shrine trembled, the dagger's power a burden I'd explore later. The burden grew when the dagger's hum attracted a Daedric hunter near Breville. He attacked in a glade, his spear thrusting, and I dodged, my blade clashing with his. I tripped him into a stream, escaping with the dagger. But his roar promised pursuit, a foe I'd face again, a shadow on my trail. The trail led me to a fisherman's shack on Lake Rumar, where I planned to hide. But the fisherman spotted the dagger, alerting a patrol. I battled, my dagger meeting a guard's sword, and escaped into the reeds, the dagger safe. The patrol's search continued, a threat I'd evade with care. Care took me to a ruined fort near Chedenhall, planning to stash the dagger. I navigated traps, spiked pits, and flame jets with skill, but a collapse trapped my foot. I pried free, dagger in hand, the fort's ruin a warning, a danger I'd return to. Return came when I targeted the fort's hidden vault, planning to steal gold. I entered via a collapsed wall, cracking the lock, and took the gold, but guards arrived, their arrows flying. I dodged, fleeing with the loot, their pursuit a chase I'd outrun, a triumph tinged with risk. Risk led me to a thieves' guild meet in the Imperial City, where I planned to fence the gold. But a rival stole it during a distraction, his knife grazing my side. I chased him through alleys, tackling him, but he escaped with half. Rivalry I'd settle, a loss driving me on. Driving on, I heisted a mage's lab in Leowin, targeting a soul gem. I planned it, scaling the wall, disabling wards, and took the gem, its glow warm. But a spell trap blasted me, knocking me out briefly. I awoke, gem in hand, the mage's anger a threat I'd face soon. The threat emerged when the mage hired assassins near Gideon. I fought, my dagger clashing with theirs, and escaped into the swamp, the gem secure. Their pursuit faded, but the mage's wrath loomed, a battle yet to come. The battle neared as I hid in a smuggler's cove, planning to trade the gem. But a storm flooded the cove, water rising as I swam for shore, gem clutched tight. I survived, the storm a test, a journey still unfolding with new perils. The bandit lord's roar faded into the night as I clutched the gold chest, my legs burning from the escape. The chase wasn't over, but my life as Varyn Telvanni, Dunmer thief, demanded I press on. More shadows awaited, each tale a step deeper into the abyss I'd carved for myself. I staggered into a dense thicket, the gold chest heavy as I sought refuge, when a pack of cliff racers swooped down, their screeches piercing the silence of the ash-choked night. I ducked, the chest clattering against a jagged rock, and swung my dagger, its edge catching the lead racer's wing, a spray of dark blood splattering my face. The others dive-bombed, their talons raking my shoulder with searing pain, forcing me to roll into a hollow log, the wood splintering under their frenzied assaults. I pressed myself against the damp interior, heart pounding, until their cries faded into the distance, leaving me battered but with the gold still in reach. The wounds throbbed, a stark reminder of Morrowind's wild fury, and I knew their kin might return, a danger lurking in the ashen skies above. That danger drove me to a remote hunter's lodge nestled in the Vallis Mountains, its stone walls barely visible through a swirling gray dawn. I planned to trade the gold for supplies, approaching with a borrowed cloak to mask my identity, the wind biting at my exposed skin. Inside, a grizzled Nord with a scarred cheek eyed my dagger suspiciously as I offered half the chest's contents, coins clinking onto a rough table, for food and a warmer cloak. The deal was struck, his nod curt, but as I turned to leave, his son, a lanky youth with a hunter's bow, drew an arrow, demanding the rest. I dodged the shot, the arrow embedding in the doorframe, and slashed the bowstring with my dagger, the twang echoing. I fled into the mist, the gold halved but my life intact, the Nord's grudge simmering in his glare, a vendetta I'd cross paths with again under these rugged peaks. The vendetta pushed me to plan a heist on a Hlalu caravan, winding through the ash wastes near Kragenmoor, a chance to replenish my losses and prove my worth. I scouted for days from a high ridge, mapping their route past crumbling Dunmer ruins, the air thick with sulfur. My plan was a trap, collapsing a rickety bridge with a stolen explosive I'd bartered from a shady alchemist in Balmora. I waited until dusk, the caravan's lanterns bobbing like fireflies, and triggered the blast, the bridge splintering under their weight. I looted silks and ebony from the wreckage, my hands swift despite the cold seeping into my bones. But a surviving guard rallied others, their shouts echoing off the volcanic cliffs as I ran, the loot secure in my pack. The pursuit hinted at retribution, a chase I'd need to outmaneuver with every ounce of cunning I possessed. Cunning led me to a smuggler's hideout along the bitter coast, a cavern of damp stone lit by the eerie glow of bioluminescent mushrooms. I planned to fence the silks, meeting a sly Argonian fence whose scales glinted with a suspicious sheen. The trade was smooth. Drakes exchanged for the goods in a damp corner, the air heavy with the scent of marsh water, until I turned to leave. His henchmen ambushed me, knives flashing in the dim light, their movements swift and coordinated. I parried with my dagger, blood staining the mossy floor as I cut through one's arm and escaped through a narrow water channel, the drakes soaked but still jingling in my pouch. The Argonian's treachery lingered in his hiss, a score I'd settle when the shadows aligned in my favor. The time came when I returned to the hideout, planning to steal back my losses and teach the Argonian a lesson. I entered at midnight, the cavern silent save for the drip of water, and disabled a ward with a pilfered charm I'd lifted from a careless mage. I took a chest of moon sugar, its sweet aroma filling my lungs, but the Argonian awoke, his spell blasting a fireball that scorched my leg with a searing heat. I limped out, the sugar clutched tight, his mocking laughter a taunt that echoed off the walls. I'd won, but the burn was a painful price, a conflict unresolved that gnawed at my resolve. Unresolved conflict drove me to a Daedric shrine hidden in the west weald, its black stones pulsing with an unnatural energy. I targeted a ritual dagger, its value a lure I couldn't resist, and planned my approach, using the shadows of dusk to avoid the crimson-robed cultists patrolling its perimeter. I picked the altar lock with steady hands, the click a soft triumph, and seized the dagger, its black blade humming with a sinister power. But a priestess, her eyes glowing with Molag Bal's influence, summoned a scamp, its claws slashing my arm with a burning sting. I fought, stabbing its throat, green ichor splattering, and fled as the shrine trembled, the dagger's weight a burden I'd need to explore when the danger passed. The burden grew when the dagger's hum attracted a Daedric hunter near Bravil, his armored form emerging from a glade's mist. He attacked, his spear thrusting with deadly precision, and I dodged, my blade clashing with his in a shower of sparks. I tripped him into a shallow stream, the water splashing as he cursed, and escaped with the dagger still in hand. His roar promised pursuit, a foe I'd face again, a shadow darkening my path through the wilderness. The path led me to a fisherman's shack on the shores of Lake Rumare, its wooden walls weathered by time. I planned to hide, stashing the dagger under a loose floorboard, but the fisherman, a wiry imperial with a fisherman's tan, spotted its gleam and alerted a patrol. I battled, my dagger meeting a guard's sword with a clang, parrying a thrust that grazed my side. I escaped into the reeds, the dagger safe, the patrol searchlight sweeping the water, a threat I'd evade with every cautious step. Caution took me to a ruined fort near Shadenhall, its crumbling walls overgrown with ivy. I planned to stash the dagger in a hidden vault, navigating traps, spiked pits, and flame jets with the skill of years spent thieving. I reached the vault, but a collapse trapped my foot under a fallen beam, the stone grinding against my ankle. I pried free with a groan, the dagger still gripped, the fort's ruin a warning of nature's wrath, a danger I'd return to when the time was right. Return came when I targeted the fort's hidden vault again, planning to steal the gold rumored within. I entered via a collapsed wall, the air thick with dust, and cracked the lock with a practiced twist, the chest's gleam a beacon. I took the gold, coins spilling into my pack, but guards arrived, their arrows flying with deadly intent. I dodged, one grazing my ear, and fled through a breach, the loot secure, their pursuit a chase I'd outrun with every ounce of speed. Speed led me to a thieves' guild meet in the Imperial City, the waterfront's alleys alive with whispers. I planned to fence the gold, laying it out on a crate for a hooded contact, but a rival thief stole it during a distraction, a tossed mug shattering on the ground. His knife grazed my side as I chased him through the docks, tackling him into the muck, but he escaped with half the haul. The rivalry burned, a loss driving me to plan my next move with vengeance in mind. Vengeance fueled a heist on a mage's lab in Leowin, targeting a soul gem to regain my footing. I planned it, scaling the ivy-covered wall under a crescent moon, disabling wards with a stolen amulet's hum. I took the gem, its purple glow warm in my hand, but a spell trap blasted me, a concussive force knocking me out briefly. I awoke, head throbbing, the gem still gripped, the mage's anger a threat I'd face when his search began. The search emerged when the mage hired assassins near Gideon, their dark forms rising from the swamp's mist. I fought, my dagger clashing with theirs in a flurry of steel, parrying a blade that nicked my thigh. I escaped into the reeds, the gem secure, their pursuit fading into the night. But the mage's wrath loomed, a battle yet to come on the horizon. The horizon drew near as I hid in a smuggler's cove on the coast of Elsewhere, planning to trade the gem. The cove was a maze of rock and tide pools, lit by the faint glow of moon sugar crates when a storm struck, waves crashing with fury. The water rose, pulling at my legs as I swam for shore, the gem clutched tight against the current. I survived, collapsing on the sand, the storm a test of endurance, a journey still unfolding with new perils waiting in the shadows. The smuggler's cove faded into memory as I clutched the soul gem, the salt water drying on my skin. My life as Varyn Telvanni, Dunmer thief, had weathered storms and blades, but the path ahead held more trials. Each tale was a stitch in the fabric of my shadowed existence, and I pressed on into the unknown. I trudged from the cove toward a derelict lighthouse on Elsewhere's coast, the soul gem's glow a beacon in the fog, when a pack of cinch tigers stalked me, their low growls rumbling through the dusk. I drew my dagger, its edge catching the dim light, and slashed at the lead beast, its fur matting with blood as it roared. The others pounced, claws tearing my calf, but I climbed a rocky outcrop, the stone cutting my palms. I waited, breath shallow, until they retreated, leaving me wounded but with the gem. The pain pulsed, a sign of Elsewhere's wild heart, and I knew their kind might prowl again, a threat I'd face in time. That threat pushed me to a Khajiit trader's caravan, planning to trade the gem for healing salves. I approached under a starlit sky, the trader's eyes narrowing as I offered the gem, its purple light reflecting off his jewelry. The deal was nearly done, salves in hand, when his guards drew scimitars, demanding the gem's power for themselves. I dodged a slash, throwing a smoke bomb from my pouch, and fled into the dunes. Salves lost, the gem still mine. The trader's betrayal stung, a grudge I'd settle when the sands shifted. The grudge led me to plan a raid on the caravan's supply tent, a petty revenge to reclaim my pride. I scouted at night, noting a flap unguarded, and slipped inside, my lockpick clicking softly as I opened a chest of spices and gold. But a guard awoke, his shout drawing others, and I ran, tripping over a crate, the loot scattering. I kept a gold necklace, a small triumph, but the caravan's wrath would follow, a feud I'd need to evade. Evading it, I headed to a ruined temple near Torval, where I planned to hide the necklace. But a band of necromancers ambushed me, their skeletal minions clattering forward. I fought, my dagger shattering bones, but a spell grazed my arm, leaving a cold burn. I escaped into a crypt, necklace in hand, their chants echoing. A pursuit I'd outrun when the dead grew silent. The pursuit intensified when a necromancer tracked me to a swampy outpost, his staff crackling with dark energy. I battled, parrying a necrotic bolt with my dagger, the air thick with decay. I lured him into quicksand, watching him sink, and fled, the necklace secure. His allies' whispers hinted at revenge, a shadow I'd face again. To face it, I allied with a rogue alchemist in Dune, planning to craft a poison for the necromancers. We brewed it in a hidden cellar, the fumes stinging my eyes, but the alchemist stole the batch, fleeing with a laugh. I chased him through alleys, tackling him, but he escaped with the poison. Treachery I'd counter, a loss driving my next step. The next step was a heist on a noble's villa in Sentinel, targeting a ruby ring to fund my plans. I scaled the wall at midnight, disabling a ward with a stolen charm, and took the ring, its red gleam warm in my hand. But a guard's patrol turned, his spear thrusting, and I fled. Ring in hand, their shouts a chase I'd need to elude. The chase led me across Sentinel's rooftops, the ring jangling as I leapt between domes. An arrow whizzed past, embedding in a tile, and I dove into a market stall, hiding among spices. I kept the ring, but the guard's persistence promised more encounters, a danger lingering in the desert winds. Lingering danger drove me to a smuggler's den in Stros Mackay, where I planned to fence the ring. But a rival pirate stole it during a brawl, his cutlass nicking my shoulder. I pursued him through the docks, tackling him into the surf, but he swam off with the prize. Rivalry I'd settle, a loss fueling my resolve. Resolve led me to a Dwemer ruin near Hammerfell, targeting a cogwheel artifact for trade. I navigated traps, steam vents, and pressure plates. With skill, the artifact's brass shined my reward. But a Dwemer construct awoke, its axe swinging, and I fled, artifact in hand, its hum a mystery I'd unravel later. The mystery deepened when the artifact attracted a dwarven ghost near Wayrest. It attacked, its ethereal blade passing through me, leaving a chill. I struck with my dagger, dispersing it, and escaped, the artifact secure. The ghost's wail suggested more spirits, a threat I'd confront soon. Confrontation came when I hid in a fisherman's hut on the Iliac Bay, planning to rest. But the fishermen saw the artifact, alerting guards. I fought, my blade clashing with theirs, and escaped through a window, the artifact safe. The guards' search continued, a peril I'd evade with caution. Caution took me to a bandit camp in the Dragontail Mountains, planning to steal their gold. I slipped in at dawn, picking the tent lock, and took the chest, but the leader awoke, his mace swinging. I dodged, fleeing with the gold, his roar a promise of pursuit, a tale yet to end. The tale neared its end as I stashed the gold in a cave, planning my escape. But a rock slide trapped me, stones pinning my leg. I pried free, gold in hand, the cave's collapse a warning, a trial I'd face again when the dust settled. The cave's dust settled around me as I limped away, the gold heavy but my spirit lighter. That was decades ago, in the early years of the Fourth Era, around 4E10. I'm Varyn Telvanni, once a thief who danced with death across Tamriel, and now an old Dunmer with ash-gray hair and a limp from too many fights. I retired to this shack in the pale Skyrim, its wooden walls creaking under snow-laden winds. The gold bought me solitude, a small fire, and memories I recount to the ravens that perch outside, my only audience now. I hung up my dagger long ago, its blade dulled by time, and buried the soul gem and artifact deep where no one will find them. The Thieves' Guild faded from my life, the Morag Tong's pursuit a distant echo, and the Daedra's whispers have grown faint. I tend a garden of frost-resistant herbs, trade with passing hunters, and watch the northern lights dance. Peace I never imagined. But some nights I hear footsteps in the snow, or see a shadow that might be a ghost from my past. I don't seek trouble anymore, but if it finds me, this old thief still has a trick or two. My tale ends here for now, but Tamriel's shadows never truly rest. Perhaps another chapter waits, written by hands I no longer wield.